Not at all, because he wishes for me to be. And I felt like saying, I'm all the fourth be with you, but not worth the hassle.
Thank you and good evening to everybody, and welcome to the ordinary meeting of the Alpine Shire Council on this 4th of May 2021. I will get the CEO to read the following statement. Thank you.
Mayor, all council meetings are filmed with both video and audio being recorded. Video is focused on a specific area, however, audio from the entire room is captured. Due to social distancing requirements, the gallery attendance is limited to 8 people at the moment, so thank you for those who have joined us this evening. Question time will still be held, however, it's requested that questions are submitted in writing prior to the meeting. And by submitting a question, you consent to your question being read aloud at the meeting. In common with all narrative during council meetings, verbal responses to congratulations, obituaries and question time will not be recorded in the written minutes. The reasoning behind recording council meetings is of course to hold us more accountable and improve the transparency of council's decision making to our community. The full meeting is being streamed live on council's YouTube channel, which is Alpine Shire Council, and will also be available on the YouTube channel shortly after this meeting.
Just one little bit of housekeeping. Anybody, just remind you that phones, please, on silent. I'd like to read the acknowledgement of traditional custodians. The Alpine Shire Council acknowledges the Taungurung traditional owners and their ancestors as the traditional owners of the land we are now on. We pay our respect to their elders past and present. We also acknowledge those people who have contributed to the rich fabric of our community and strive to make wise decisions that will improve the quality of life for all. Thank you. Item 3, confirmation of minutes. 3.1. Noting, please, that some of our recording was lost last month, but outcomes were reported accordingly. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Vincent, and seconder, Councillor Janis. Any discussion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Those in favour? Thank you. Item number 4, apologies. Are there any apologies that anybody can? No. Thank you. Obituaries and congratulations. Item 5, starting from in front of me, Councillor Keeble.
Thank you. Obituary condolences to the Heberley family. Jill Heberley passed away recently, long-time resident in the Kiwa Valley. Heberleys were well known up in the Falls Creek area as well. Jack Heberley passed away many years ago, but there are several monuments, no, that's not the right word, several buildings with his name on that, with the family name. So condolences to the Heberley family. And I want to, and probably other people say congratulations, but I do want to congratulate the Alpine Shire officers for all the work they did leading up to the Legislative Council meeting and sessions on Wednesday and Thursday and throughout the whole week. I'm sure others will have some more to say on that, but I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Councillor Janis.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start with an obituary. Last council meeting I mentioned that my friend and fellow councillor in the Wellington Shire Council of Hull was unwell. He did pass away, and attended his funeral on behalf of as council representative. I was on the MAB board with him. He was an excellent councillor, and we have sent a letter of condolence to family, and we extend our condolences to the family and his colleagues with Wellington Shire Council. Just a great bloke. But in the same vein as Councillor Keeble, over the Anzac Day weekend and since, the amount of work that our staff have put into our tracks and trails around various towns has been outstanding, and I think working for Victoria staff as well have been heavily involved in doing that. And we talk a lot about mental health, etc., after our bushfires, and there's nothing so nice as to go walking down a trail that's been well maintained and presentable. It's healthy environment, healthy mind, I think, is what we need to be looking at, and I think the staff have done a terrific job, really and truly, in presenting not only to the citizens of Alpine Shire, but to our visitors as well, and you know, something we should be really proud of. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to congratulate the council officers and staff and the community and the businesses for what I thought personally was just a phenomenal week. The opportunity to have the upper house of the Parliament come and sit in just a tiny, really, we're a tiny council and a tiny community. It was just, yeah, I've spoken to other councillors and staff and community members about the vibe of the week, and it was really a phenomenal opportunity to showcase our region and to see the response from the politicians and their staff, many of which hadn't come to the region before. Like Councillor Janice was just saying, there was a real pride in our community and of our beautiful environment, which is quite breathtaking, and it was personally just a real honour to be a representative of our region for that. I'd also like to thank all the businesses that were involved, so seeing the farmers market stalls that were a part of the parliamentary sitting day, and seeing the politicians go and their staff and community members go and hear the stories of the individual businesses and what they've been through the last 18 months and their challenges in particular. Yeah, a few of us went around to the stalls and heard the stories as well, and it was just a reminder to me how important it is that our council really get behind our residents, our businesses and our visitors, and yeah, as much as we can just support our recovery out of, you know, some really significant challenges we've seen. So yeah, congrats to everyone involved.
Thank you, Councillor Vincent. Councillor Charwell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I reiterate again, it was a fantastic opportunity for many members, staff, councillors involved. It's something I don't think we would ever have anticipated that we could be a part of, so it was really wonderful to see. So well done to everyone involved in that. A big shout out to the Wandie Nut Festival and the Mount Beauty Music Festival. My children and I attended both of these events on the same weekend. It was a big weekend, but we had a lot of fun. The committees of management that managed to get those up and running as a bit of a feel-good, happy vibe. Everybody was just enjoying it. No one was in anybody else's space, and they were just really well managed. So big shout out to the communities that got in and amongst that, because I think that's a really big value add in light of the recent last 18 months. I was also lucky enough to be invited to the Bright sub-branch RSL. Derek Rowland was awarded a lifetime membership and actually finished up his last day as part of that branch last week. Back in 2010, he was Australia Day Bright Achiever of the Year. Unfortunately, the citation that was awarded to him wasn't exactly read out and presented to the best of the abilities, and the branch reached out to me and asked me to read that citation. Derek and his wife were overjoyed and overwhelmed by having that information read out, and I took my children plus an extra, who they were very well informed as to what all of the bits and pieces in all the memorabilia is there for. So it was a really beautiful experience. So congratulations to Derek and the team at the sub-branch there. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Nicholas.
Well, people have stolen my thunder.
No, not at all.
But I did want to also congratulate the Wandy Nut Festival Committee. The vibe was fantastic. And I have never seen so many cars. I know that they were parking slightly differently to other years, but there were cars parked all over the place, which indicated to me that there were lots of people inside, and indeed there were, but it wasn't overwhelming. It was a lovely, lovely day as usual. So well done, everybody. Also, having the Legislative Council here was a fabulous way to showcase both the fundamentals that make the Alpine Shire such a great place and some of the stories. But it was also an excellent opportunity for councillors and council staff to put the needs of the Alpine Shire right in front of those people, some of whom are members of Parliament. So it was, ministers. So it was really, really a fabulous opportunity, particularly to talk about the housing issues that we have here and that are really starting to hit crisis point, and of course are across the state anyway. I also wanted to pick out something that did come up in the local newspaper, and I looked it up further because I'm passionately interested in it. But it's about a local business, Mawson's. I know Mawson's is quite a big business, but they do have a centre in Pulpunka. They have gone 100% renewable on all their sites, energy that is, and they are now offering a green concrete, which is 100%, as far as I understand, recycled aggregate and sand, as well as using 40% less of cement, Portland cement, which is one of the biggest contributors to greenhouse gas across the world. So congratulations to Mawson's, and I hope that people start using that concrete as much as they can when we use concrete.
Is that a congratulatory or an advertisement?
Both.
Thank you.
Well, congratulating them for standing up and doing it and showing that it's viable.
It's part of our principles as well.
Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Prime.
I think everyone's covered the big ticket items that's happened recently, so none from me.
Thank you.
Mr Mayor, if I may add
yes, certainly.
My
Councillor Keeble. Yep.
If the people out in big wide world out there, I'd
Certainly.
also like to congratulate the Victorian Legislative Council for making the effort and the decision, and all their staff, which was plenty, for coming up here and taking part and being interested in rural Victoria. So I want to congratulate them for doing that, and I'm sure we'd all like to see that in once a year or once every fourth year each term, that Legislative Council is somewhere in our state at some other regional areas.
I have extended the invitation to them to do that, but whether they do or not, it's another one.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Yes,
may
certainly.
I impose?
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge yourself, the Mayor.
Thank you.
The professional way you represented our Shire during the recent visit by the Members of Parliament, and the professional manner in which you conducted yourself. So that's one for you.
Thank you. Councillors will know that I have privately thanked all of them, so publicly I will thank them as well for the excellent job that they also did at our reception, and also during the following day at the actual Legislative Council. I have a couple of things to say in congratulations. First thing, I would like to congratulate our CEO, Charlie Bird, for his All About Alpine last week, which I did view. And so all of your comments regarding Alpine Shire staff, Charlie summed it up exceptionally well in his All About Alpine. The other one is that I would really like to, and I'll just get it up on screen here, but this needs a face. Got it? And that is, for those of you who will remember, we did make a presentation to the President of the Legislative Council at the end of the day last Thursday, and that was around about 2.5 kilos or 3 kilos of chestnuts per favour of Councillor Nicholas, and also an Alpine Shire tie, which I asked that he would wear at some stage. So this is from Hansard today, Legislative Council Regional Sitting, President, members. If you recall, the Mayor gave me a tie, and today it is an honour for me to wear the tie as a sign of respect. So that was in a sitting in Melbourne today at the Legislative Council. So thank you very much, Mr President, Nazir Ellismar. Really appreciated it. Declarations of, item 6, declarations of councillors of conflict of interest. Anybody? No. Just prior to public questions, I've got a quick question of the CEO. Is this to be read out? It's sitting on my desk. Okay, thank you. Right. Public questions. Questions on notice will be limited to 2 questions per person. Questions on notice can be written or from the floor. And as I've stated before, questions on notice are preferable to be written and submitted earlier if possible, simply that we can give a full and timely answer to the questions on notice. We have 3 questions on notice tonight. So question number 1 is from Bonnie Bester, and it regards the lighting on the rail trail in Bright. A bit of preamble, and then I will ask the question. I'm concerned for the health and safety of people using the rail trail at night as the solar lights are no longer working. Someone could, as you cannot see where you are going. I fear for the elderly people in the community as this limits their ability to get around, particularly in the winter months. I am concerned that this could increase the crime rates, as country towns are not immune to crime such as assault and robbery, which are more likely to occur in poorly lit locations. I personally am looking into town for dinner. However, the rail trail is too dark and the Great Alpine Road footpath is uneven. Well, that's another thing for the asset team. I suspected that if you have the infrastructure in place that the council would maintain that infrastructure. Can you please, the question is, can you please fix the solar lights or replace them with an adequate substitution? I think that would be the Director of Assets. And I do apologise very quickly. I did not introduce the officers tonight. We have Director of Corporate, Ms Kneebone, Director of Commercial, Ms Kneebone, Director of Corporate, Ms Cook, and Director of Assets, Mr Jeremy. Mr Jeremy, I think this one's for you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Bonnie, for your feedback and for your request. So firstly, I'd like to acknowledge what we all know is that the lights are not working. They haven't been working for some time. We have had various attempts over time to breathe some light back into them. We've replaced batteries, we've replaced solar cells, and we've reached a conclusion with those lights that the technology that was present at the time when we installed inappropriate in that location to keep those lights working. So I think to the first part of your question was, can we please fix them? The answer is no. The second part of your question is, can we replace them with an adequate substitution? And the answer is, we hope so. We've started work on that. We commit to working through the various options, and there are a number of different options in that location, and we'll work through those and identify what the most appropriate solution is in that location.
Thank you, Mr Jeremy. And thank you for that question. It's a very timely one, especially with winter coming up. Thank you, Bonnie. Question number 2 is from ex-councillor Kitty Knapstein. I thank Council and Vic Roads for the pedestrian refuges across Gavin Street and Mountbatten Avenue. They have made crossing these busy roads easier and safer. The reduced speed limit has also made a huge difference. Integration of pedestrians, cyclists and drivers, resident and visiting, is presenting challenges, particularly for those using mobility walkers. Examples of this are bicycles on footpaths, skateboards on footpaths and roads, pedestrians on roads, pedestrian refuges which are not pedestrian crossings, and drivers are not obliged to stop. Her question is, can Council help with clearer signage to prevent confusion about right of way? Is this... Thank you, Mr Jeremy.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Kitty, for your question, and particularly for your feedback about the pedestrian refuges and the change in speed limit. That's appreciated. What we commit to do in this circumstance is to have a look. So we have been monitoring, since we installed the new infrastructure, monitoring the behaviour of pedestrians, cyclists, users of the road. So we'll continue to monitor, but we'll also look at whether there are any appropriate signage improvements we could make along Gavin Street, which would essentially clarify the various rights and obligations of the users of the street. What I should note is it's easy to put up signs, but the more signs you put up, the less attention people pay to a specific sign, because you can overwhelm people with information. So we've got to be a bit careful that we strike a good balance between providing the right information but not providing too much information that we overwhelm people.
Thank you, Mr Jeremy. Now, questions on notice can be written or from the floor. This third question is from Mary Pike from the UKVCA, and Mary is actually in the room, so welcome to some members of the public back into our gallery. Mary, would you like to, or shall I read the question? I'll put the question. Okay, thank you. Are the allowances paid to the Mayor and Councillors intended to cover use of Shire cars, reimbursement of fuel or accommodation expenses, or other expenses which may be incurred by these council members? Could I add to that in their normal course of doing their job? Certainly. Thank you. Could I have Director of Commercial, Ms. Kneeburn?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Mary, for the question. So the council allowances are for council's time, and they do not cover the use of other resources that might be required for councillors to perform their duties. So council does have another policy relating to the use of other resources, and that is available on council's website, and it covers such things as their telephone usage, vehicles, potentially childminding, and that sort of other resources that council is required, travel, use of vehicles and accommodation. And also there's a reference to councillors' use of resources in their code of conduct as well, which requires them to only utilise council resources that are reasonable in the carrying out of their duties.
I think I can assure you, Mary, that this council is very frugal.
I wasn't suggesting that.
No, I realise that, but thank you. Right, item 8.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Yes, certainly.
If I could comment on that. Mary, the full cost of councillors' expenses, etc., are included in the annual report as well, should anybody want to see what we've been doing, spending, whatever. It mightn't be actually detailed, however it is there in our annual report and can, I think, be compared to any other council in the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Janus. Presentation of reports by officers, 8.1.1, contracts approved by the CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Before I discuss this report, I'd just like to concur with Councillor Janus. If I look across the other councils and the expenditure from other councils across the state, Alpine Shire councils are very careful about how they use ratepayers' money, and the allowances and the associated expenditure is very modest in comparison. So this item, 8.1.1, is contracts approved by the CEO. The recommendation is that the Capital Works contracts approved by the CEO be noted, and there is one there which relates to the Myrtleford Murray to Mountains rail trail upgrade.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Nicholas. Any comments, Councillor Keeble? Councillor Nicholas?
No comments. Well, I guess it is a comment. It's good money well spent on getting this project done.
Thank you. Nothing else. Those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. I have been a little bit remiss, and Councillor Nicholas has just reminded me, were there any other questions from the floor? No? Thank you. Moving on. Item 8.2, Director of Assets, Mr Will Jeremy.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report relates to the award of a contract for guardrail construction at various locations along the Great Alpine Road between Freeburg and Harriettville. So, as you're aware, we're delivering the Great Valley Trail project, which will connect Bright to Harriettville with a shared trail. And there are some sections of the shared trail which pass in the road reserve of the Great Alpine Road. So we've been engaging with Regional Roads Victoria around how we essentially provide for these facilities in the Great Alpine Road. And we've been successful in securing funding from Regional Roads Victoria of $250,000 towards implementation of some additional guardrail, which will improve the safety of users both of the road and of the trail that's behind the road. So this contract here is a recommendation to award a contract for the construction of the guardrail. We've been through a public tender process. We've engaged with Regional Roads Victoria, so they're the road authority there, so they've approved the design of the guardrail that we're going to install, and we're ready to award the contract. So recommendation is noted there. One issue to note is that this, as the works are on the land that is essentially within the recognition settlement agreement area of the Tungarang, this is subject to the consent of the Tungarang, and we are working through that process with the Tungarang at the moment. So the recommendation is that, subject to receiving the Tungarang's consent, Council awards contract for the guardrail construction to DDC Proprietary Limited.
I have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Vincent, seconder. Councillor Nicholas. Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well done to the council for securing that grant funding. It's just another example, I think, of taking that opportunity and an excellent project.
Councillor Nicholas.
As a question to the Director of Assets, Mr. Jeremy, sometimes when there's a bike path next to a guardrail, there's another barrier on or a smoothing board on the bike path side. Have we costed that in, or is that part of our project?
Thank you, Councillor Nicholas. So, as we've discussed with you this week, there are options that we can consider where that guardrail does run close to the shared trail. So what we propose to do is install a guardrail, and then once we've delivered the trail, we'll have a look at where it might be appropriate to put some of those additional protections on the inside. So that's essentially to protect cyclists from riding into the pillars. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, Councillor Keeble.
Question. The subject to receiving consent from Tungarang Land and Waters Council, is there a time frame for that? Are we thinking 1 month, 5 months, 6 months?
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. We have a good working relationship with the Tungarang. We're working very closely with them on this project, as we have with the previous ones which have their engagement, so the Buckland Bridge and the Jumps Park. We're confident that we're close to receiving their consent, but until the letter's signed, there's still potential for it to move on. We're at the point now of writing to formally request their consent. Now, we've nailed down the last few details of where we're impacting on land that they have an interest in. So we believe we're getting close, but until we have that signature, there's still, I guess, a risk that could drag out. We're in slightly uncharted territory. It's a new relationship we're building with the Tungarang.
Councillor Janis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two items on that in relation to our dealings with our friends at Tungarang. Should they decide not to give us permission, what are the implications there, and are we jumping the gun with this recommendation at this point until we have their consent to move forward with this?
Thank you, Mr. Janis, Councillor Janis. In response to your first question, there is a mediation process that's outlined in the Land Use Activity Agreement. So that is the last stop resort if we get through all options and we can't essentially work a way forward with the Tungarang. We're confident at this stage we are building a strong relationship. We're confident that we won't need to resort to that. I guess that's the final option if we find that we reach a complete stalemate with the Tungarang. So far, we've received their consent to deliver the Buckland Bridge project. We've received their consent to deliver the Jumps Park in Pioneer Park. So we've got, a few runs on the board, and we're confident of being able to get the same outcome. So in terms of this contract, there's no risk to council. The contract will not be awarded, or the contract will be awarded subject to that consent, and we won't commit council funds. That require that consent to be in place. So essentially, council's funds are protected until the point where we've got the Tungarang's consent.
Thank you. I'm confident with that. Thank you.
Any other comments from councillors? I note, I think, Mr. Jeremy, that the grant funding was $250,000 and the total cost is $270,000. So council funds that you're talking about in that instance are only around about $20,000. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. And as you've pointed out, we are in an early relationship with the Tungarang, and we are building rapport as we go. And all of these things will come to pass, and I'm sure that we'll have a great relationship over the years to come. Now, Councillor Vincent, any reply?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right. Thank you. Put it to the vote, please. Those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Item 8.2.2, petition from the Alpine Better Places Toowoomba. This is again Mr. Jeremy, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this report is to inform Council and provide a response to a petition which was tabled at the April 2021 Council meeting. It relates to a request for revisions to the Alpine Better Places Toowoomba draft detailed concept designs. So we're working through a process at the moment with the community in developing detailed concept designs for the Alpine Better Places Toowoomba and Harriettville projects. So this is following the model that we successfully delivered for the Alpine Better Places, Myrtleford, Bright Mafeking Square and Port Punker projects. There's quite extensive consultation that we carry out with the community. So on both the Harriettville and the Toowoomba projects, we've had 2 rounds of consultation so far where we've invited comments, take the comments on board, update documentation and go back to the community. So we've had 2 rounds. We've got a further round to come, which we've introduced because of the level of interest and the number of comments that we've received from the community. There'll be a further round of consultation before we present those detailed concept designs to the councillors, and our intention is that we deliver through those detailed concept designs works which meet the aspirations and the needs of the community. That's really the objective of carrying out this engagement. So we received a petition, and the petition contained 152 signatures, and it requested that the Alpine Better Places Toowoomba design does not include a traffic island immediately in front of the old Toowoomba store, nor that it removes 4 car parking spaces immediately in front of the old Toowoomba store. And the key concerns that were noted in this petition were the lack of final community consultation for the Alpine Better Places final concept designs, the impediment to traffic from the installation of a traffic island, the loss of car parking space immediately in front of the old Toowoomba store, and the loss of Australia post-delivery access immediately in front of the old Toowoomba store. So what we've done with this feedback, we've provided that to the project team and to the consultant. So we've got a lot of feedback in following our consultation. We've had engagement with the community, and we've had a number of people who've contacted us directly. So we've shared that feedback with the team, and essentially that team collates all the feedback from the various different sources and establishes what is the appropriate way forward based on what they're seeing and based on input from technical specialist engineers. This is a regional roads Victoria road, so we're constrained as to what we can do in this location. We will process the information, produce revised drafts, and those will then go out again for the community to have a look at. So there's another step in the process where the community will get another opportunity to look at these plans and to provide another round of feedback before we then present to council. So recommendation in this report, we note the petition. We thank the proponents for spending the time to put that information together and sending it through to us. We confirm that we have shared this information with the project team and the consultants, and it will be taken into account, and we will advise the proponent of this decision tonight.
Thank you. Could I have a mover for that, please?
So moved.
Councillor Chalwell, seconder. Councillor Prime. Councillor Chalwell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This just goes to show that community consultation is working. It's clearly a passion. People getting involved is the intention behind this. So the more people that can make good, well-informed decisions about what it is they want to see moving forward, these type of projects, I think it will benefit more of the community as we keep going through these processes. So the passion behind it the intention is there, which is wonderful to see.
Councillor Prime.
Yeah, similar sentiment. For such a tiny town, that is an enormous amount of feedback. So it's really nice to see everyone very passionate about Toowoomba. Obviously, feedback has to be taken on board from everyone, but really good to see people responding, I think, which is one of the main things to take.
Thank you. Any other comments from Councillor Keeble?
There's still a little bit of a way to go in this actual. I'm in the wrong
process.
The process, and I wanted to use the word better places in regards to the final design. And so, just for people that are listening out there, there will be other opportunities to provide feedback. And this particular one, obviously. The person putting the petition together, who I've spoken to many times, was very adamant that this wasn't going to happen. So I know his voice has been heard. He feel as if his voice has been heard, so that's terrific. But I will also say there'll be other opportunities to provide feedback along the way as well.
Thank you. Any other councillors like to make comment on this? No? Councillor Chalwell, did you have anything else to add? No? Thank you. I shall put this to the vote. Those in favour? Thank you. That is carried. Right. 8.3, the Director of Commercial, Ms Kneebone. 8.3.1, Council and Mayoral Allowance Review.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The Local Government Act requires each council to review and determine the level of councillor and mayoral allowances within 6 months of a general election or the 30th of June, whichever is the later. Council has proposed allowances that are 95% of the maximum allowed by the Victorian Government for this category of council, being 20,046 for councillors and 59,889 for the mayoral allowance. These allowances were placed on public exhibition for 28 days and no submissions were received. Council may now confirm its decision to approve allowances paid as per the recommendation, noting that an amount equivalent to the superannuation guarantee contribution will be paid on top of the council allowances.
Thank you. So moved. Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Seconder. Councillor. Everybody put their hand up. Yeah. Councillor Vincent. Any comment, Councillor Keeble?
It's always uneasy when you're having to put up a motion like this in regards to, none of us are here for financial rewards, and to the question earlier today in regards to what councillors might or might not do with their stipend. Some councillors choose to use some of that to pay for vehicle expenses, and some choose to use it for other areas, and that's in all councils and all councillors. So, I'm happy that we're at the, we're less than the maximum allowance that we are to show that fiscal support. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think I said this at the last time it was raised, but as I suppose one of the younger people on the council with a family, it wouldn't be possible for me personally to have put up my hand to be on council if there wasn't some allowance to equate for the time commitment. So I'm personally very grateful for the allowance, which then enables people to take time out of work to then commit to that role.
Excellent. Any other councillors like to comment on their rate of stipend? No? Okay, thank you. The recommendation will be put. Those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Item 8.3.2, VEC Election Report 2020 Local Government Elections. Thank you, Ms Kneebone.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This election report is prepared by the Victorian Electoral Commission and it relates to the 2020 Alpine Shire Council elections. It contains information about candidates, voting, results, election statistics and any follow-up matters. The Chief Executive Officer must submit the report to Council at the earliest practical meeting of Council after the report is received. And we received this report on the 19th of April, so this is the first opportunity for Council to receive the report. And the recommendation is that Council receives and notes the Alpine Shire Council election report.
So moved.
Councillor Janus and Councillor Nicholas. Councillor Janus.
No, not much comment on that, Mr Mayor. I think it's pretty administrative, really. I don't have any further to say.
Okay, Councillor Nicholas.
I'd actually had a look at it. It's a very detailed report, and VEC have done a very good job of pulling all that information together. But yes, it's administrative, I think, too.
Anybody else like to comment? Councillors? No. Councillor Janus, anything added? No. To the vote, please. Those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. Item 8.3.3, Instruments of Appointment and Authorisation, Planning and Environment Act 1987. Thank you, Ms Kneebone again.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Instruments of appointment and authorisation ensure that council officers are able to carry out their duties lawfully. This report is an administrative one as well, to allow for a change in title to an officer from compliance officer to compliance coordinator. Authorisations are made to an individual rather than a role. So while the previous authorisation is current, it is considered prudent to update the authorisation to the current title. So the recommendation relates to powers conferred under the Planning and Environment Act and appoints the compliance coordinator and revokes the previous instrument.
Thank you. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Nicholas. Councillor Prime. Councillor Nicholas.
It is really important that we've got the and authorised under our system, so it's great to have it.
Councillor Prime.
No comment.
No comment. Any other comments from councillors? No. Those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. Item 8.3.4, the Audit and Risk Committee meeting minutes and recommendations.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This and the following report relate to the activities of the Audit and Risk Committee. This report presents the minutes of the committee last meeting on the 26th of February 2021. Matters discussed at the meeting included the committee's annual work program,
Sorry, we're off air. Is that correct? All right. Suspended.
So I believe by the either the special council meeting in June or July, we will have the new
System.
video conferencing infrastructure in place, which means Justin won't have to
Either that or
at each meeting.
either that. Yeah, we did ask them.
They gave us the times to know again.
Thank you. We just had a slight glitch there with our IT. We are back online. Audit and Risk Committee meeting minutes and recommendations, item 8.3.4. Ms Kneebone, please.
Yes, I'll just continue with the introduction. At its last meeting, the committee discussed annual work program, its proposed internal audit program, the new asset management dashboard, and independent members' expiry of term. And the recommendation is that Council receives and notes the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee's meeting on the 26th of February.
I have a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Vincent and Councillor Chalwell. Councillor Vincent.
Just a thank you to the outgoing members who I don't personally know because I was new to the committee, but just to acknowledge their contribution. Sue and else is?
Mark.
And Mark. So thank you officially for their service.
Thank you. Councillor Chalwell.
No further comment, thank you.
Any further comment on this particular item 8.3.4? No, to the vote please. Those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Now, item 8.3.5 is the continuation of this, the appointment of independent Audit and Risk Committee members. Thank you, Ms Kneebone.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So, as alluded to in the previous report, the term of 3 of the 4 independent members of the Council's Audit and Risk Committee expired on the 30th of April. 2 of the independents have signalled their desire to vacate their positions, Sue Labish and Mark Anderson, as by Councillor Vincent. The committee charter requires a minimum of 5 members, 2 councillors and 3 or more independent members. So we did have 1 extra independent member than absolutely required. The recruitment process for new independent members in accordance with the committee's charter is now complete, and the recommendation is that Council appoint Gerard Moore and Jason Young to the Audit and Risk Committee for 3-year terms, and acknowledges and thanks the retiring members, Sue Labish and Mark Anderson.
So moved.
Councillor Nicholas. Councillor Prime. Councillor Nicholas.
It's great that we have Gerard Moore continuing, and I look forward to meeting Jason Young, who I understand brings some important experience with him. And just add to the thank you to Sue and Mark, who have put in a lot of time and effort over the years, and I think the Audit Committee is a really high-performing and effective committee.
3 or more independent. Thank you, Councillor Nicholas. Councillor Prime?
Yeah, just to reiterate those comments, congratulations to the the two appointed there, sorry, and thanks to the ones outgoing. Not being on the committee myself, but I always hear really good things about it, and how Councillor Nicholas said, very high performing. So thank you very much to them.
Thank you. Any other councillors wish to make a comment? No? I would just also add that there was another independent member, Sinead Ryan, who was on the committee, retired back in December. Her contribution to that committee was also, I'm also noting, not that it needs to be part of the recommendation though. So I'll put the recommendation if there's no more further comment. Those in favour, please. Thank you, that's carried. Director of Corporate, 8.4, Natalie Cook. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please?
Sure.
Right, thank you. Nothing to report. Informal meetings of councillors, item 9. There's a recommendation that the summary informal meetings of councillors for March and April 2021 be received, and I will note that March the 23rd was already noted in our April meeting. So, could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please?
So moved.
So moved and seconded. Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Councillor Janis. Any comments, please, Councillor Keeble?
None for me.
No. Councillor Janis?
No.
No. Any other councillors need to comment? Thank you. To the vote. Thank you. That's carried. General business from my left, Councillor Prime.
No, thank you. None from me, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Nicholas.
Yes, I have some general business. It is about new bike passing rules for people who are driving. As of April the 26th, which was Monday a week ago, it is now required that people give a metre distance between a cyclist and a car, which is about that much, if it's 60 kilometres or under, and 1.5 metres over 60 kilometres an hour. It is also okay to, if it's safe to do so and you can see far enough ahead, to pop over double, single or painted lines to do so. So it's $330 on the spot fine, and if you have to go to court it's even more, and it is obviously not going to be a whole lot there. Making sure everyone's giving enough room, but as a cyclist, and anyone else who's been a cyclist, it's really nice to get that room. It's quite scary when a car comes close to you at 60 or plus. I don't think I'd leave if someone hit me. So hopefully everyone pays attention and gives the room.
This is for public notification.
Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Charwell.
Yes, thank you. One, congratulations, I think we also forgot to mention, was Claire Locke, our youth representative at the Legislative Council. I think she held the room better than anybody that day. She had a lot to say, and it wasn't just in reference to the youth of our area. It could be taken across the board, and I really do congratulate her. She did an impeccable job, and I think almost every member of Parliament sat next to her and congratulated her throughout the day, and she did there the entire day. So it was an excellent experience for her as well, but congratulations to Claire. Also, myself and Councillor Vincent had our first official Sod Turning Ceremony. I have to admit, I did Google what a Sod Turning Ceremony was. But it was for the opening of the expansion for the Alpine View Children's Services Centre. It's a much needed expansion to the childcare centre here in Bright, and we were lucky enough to get grant funding for that project. And it was really nice to have a chat amongst ourselves as to what it's going to look like, what it's going to mean, and unfortunately the ground was so hard that the shovel did not actually make a dent in that ground, but it was actually a really good process to be involved in, so I want to thank you for allowing that.
CEO would like to make a comment.
Yes, that was a lesson for us. There's no doubt about that. Just to clarify, it wasn't the opening of the expansion. It was to celebrate the commencement of construction, which will lead to the expansion.
Yes,
Just
yes.
for those of you out there who have children you want to go to the childcare, we still need to sort of some time ahead of us to actually do the works.
Thank you. Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Chilwell has covered both of my 2 points, and I will work on my shovel digging expertise for the next opportunity.
Yeah.
We'll be shovel ready next time.
We'll shovel ready. Yep, I know. Councillor Janis.
I reserve my right at this point.
All right, there's not many to go. Councillor Keeble.
I want to publicly thank and acknowledge the work by Natalie Cook. It is her last ordinary council meeting today. Natalie is finishing up sometime soonish, and having been here on council when you were first appointed and where we are today, your honesty, your intellect, the way you go about presenting yourself, you've just, you've been a great example of what Alpine Shire is. So I wish you and your family well in your endeavours and hope to see you around at some stage. So all the best. Thank you for everything.
Hear, hear. Councillor Janis.
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Excellent. All right. Some general business. I just wonder with these new bike rules, Councillor Nicholas, of any of the ramifications it may have for the width of some of our roads. So it'll be interesting. I do have one thing here, and this is, I think, from a little bit internal, but it is to do with our community panel. Did you want that read?
So is in relation to our community panel for the part of our council plan development. So we have been seeking expression of interest for people to be on that panel. We have a need to, we'd like to get broad representation across the demographics of our community, and what you have in front of you there outlines the areas which we're currently lacking and we are seeking to recruit. So I'll hand over to you.
Thank you. Okay, so after that preamble, Community Panel will stand for 2 years and will be called upon to discuss local issues and ideas and provide feedback to help us make decisions that impact the community. We've had a fantastic response to the EOI process so far. Thank you to everybody who has submitted. These responses have been analysed into demographic groups, and there are a couple of gaps we would like to fill to ensure the panel is truly representative. We're extending the application period to encourage applications from members of those underrepresented demographics. These include people aged under 35 and those aged over 75 and are resident from Myrtleford, Harrietville, Popunka and Mount Beauty. This is a fantastic way to make a difference and shape the future of your community. Expressions of interest to join the panel closed now at 9 a.m. on Monday the 10th of May. So I'm assuming that will be put onto our various comms, various Facebook pages, etc. Yes, thank you. So we're encouraging people to submit your EOI this week. EOI, by the way, is an expression of interest. The process is easy and will only take a couple of minutes. Visit the Alpine Shire website or the Alpine Shire Facebook page to learn more and for the link to submit your expression of interest. Thank you. Councillor Chalwell.
Yes, thank you. Just on, I fit into one of those categories, just by a few years.
Over 75.
Over 75, I age well.
Right.
No, and I really do want to put it out there that this is an opportunity and you can learn a lot from it. You can meet some fantastic people and you can really shape the future of, things that you're wanting to see in our Alpine Shire. So I'm urging anybody I know, and I know that there are a few out there that would be interested and probably just haven't thought about that process and jumping on and having a look. So get out there, discuss it, talk to someone you think might be a good representation because it's definitely going to be worth your while in doing so.
Thank you for those kind words. Anybody else would like to make a comment about this? It is... Sorry? The name? It is the community panel. basically, up on Shire Community Panel. So it is getting feedback back into the machinations behind the scenes here. Yep.
It's a requirement under the Local Government Act with the deliberative.
I knew there might have been something else there.
engagement.
Yeah.
No, that's okay.
Good. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'll tag on to the other end of the age spectrum, as I have the right to do.
Certainly. Thank you,
So
Councillor
I
Janis.
encourage any of those people in my age demographic, or older than I would appear, to also step up and have their say in the shaping of our community going forward.
And I think you raise a good point, Councillor Janis, and that is that we should probably be targeting some of the community groups that have got this age demographic as part of their membership. So I think
there's
that should be
plenty
done.
out there.
Yeah.
There's plenty of them out there.
Yep. All right. Sorry.
I was going to say, so expression of interests are due 9 a.m. Monday. So
This month.
10th of May.
this
yes.
Monday. We've extended it, but it's
Yep.
yep.
Right. So we'll work on this. Item 11, motions for which notice has previously been given. There are none, I believe. Item 12, reception and reading of petitions. We had one petition tonight which has been dealt with, or is going to be dealt with. Item 13, documents for sealing. Recommendation that the following documents be signed and sealed. We have 2 documents tonight for signing and sealing. Can I have a mover and a seconder for those, please? Councillor Janis, Councillor Vincent, thank you. Those in favour of that, thank you. That is carried. There being no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 5:57 and